This is a stimulus update and daily news report. Looks like we're coming down to the wire. President Biden met with Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin again to hammer out the final details for the Build Back Better bill. According to Chuck Schumer, Medicare and prescription drugs are the final holdup. Also, they came out with the tax proposal of how billionaires will be taxed. We'll go over this article right here. President Biden wants stimulus checks to continue into 2022, and Congress has a new plan for Social Security where it could increase 125%. I'll give you those details, then I'll answer the questions you leave for me in the comments. Hope you're having a terrific Thursday. If you appreciate the fact-based, fast-paced updates, hit the like button down below. So social infrastructure bill has been gutted. Progressives may not let it pass. Also, another article right here, Biden closes in on deal with Manchin Sinema as liberals wins. So Nancy Pelosi says here, it's lamb eat lamb. There's no bad decision. We have to choose. So it looks like the bill has been gutted a lot. We still don't know all the final details, but President Biden had a meeting with Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, and according to Chuck Schumer, Medicare and prescription drugs hold up the final deal, which I don't completely believe. I think there's still a lot more other things that are holding up the deal, but this is what Chuck Schumer said. I believe that we will get this done, and we will get it done soon. No one ever said that passing transformational legislation like this would be easy, but we are on track to get it done. There is universal consensus in our caucus that we have to come to an agreement despite differences in views on many issues. I believe a final deal is within reach. So President Biden met with Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin. White House hunkers down with Manchin and Sinema as Democrats insist deal is within reach. So we'll see if a deal is actually within reach. Biden aides intensify meetings with two senators as they race to resolve a number of issues in giant tax and spending package. So what's going on here? In public comments and private meetings, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said that they made significant progress in narrowing the gaps between their warring liberal and moderate factions, opening the door for them to finalize an initiative that some lawmakers believe will cost about $1.75 trillion over 10 years. So looks like that $3.5 trillion out the window, not even $2 trillion, but looks like $1.75 trillion is the number that it's going to be. Chuck Schumer also said an agreement is within arm's length, and we are hopeful that we could come to a framework agreement by the end of the day. So when it comes to the $3.5 trillion package, originally they were saying they may not have cut it, but they were going to split it into two different bills. We haven't heard anything about that yet, so it looks like it's just $1.75 trillion with one bill. Here's a video clip explaining about the tax proposal that Democrats are using for this.
Democrats' tax proposals are beginning to take shape in Washington. Elon Moy joins us right now. She has more on all of this, and I guess that's a relative term, beginning to take shape, right, Elon?
Well, Becky, we do have information about two new key proposals that Democrats are now floating in order to pay for their social spending package. The billionaire's income tax would impose the capital gains rate on anyone with $100 million in income or $1 billion in assets for 3 consecutive years, even if they have not realized those gains. Now, Democrats estimate only about 700 people fall into this category, but they could wind up paying hundreds of billions in tax over the course of a decade. Now, that idea is spearheaded by Senate Finance Chairman Ron Wyden, but the reception in the House has been lukewarm. Ways and Means Chairman Richard Neal argued that his plan for raising rates and making millionaires pay a surtax on income has already been fully debated and vetted.
I think that if you consider that the caucuses I've met with even in the last 48 hours in the House, there's more steadfast support for what we did in terms of rates than at any time since I think that we offered our proposal, which is now 40 days old.
Another new idea that Democrats are pushing is a minimum tax on corporations. They want to create a 15% rate on book income for companies with profits of $1 billion or more. Now, importantly, moderate Senator Kyrsten Sinema is backing this. She's calling it a common sense step, but it is currently unclear where she stands on the billionaire's tax, and that's going to be important for determining whether that can even survive. Guys, back over to you.
You know, Elon, I think that this is so convoluted and so important to kind of pay attention to the details here. And this is not a defense of billionaires. Look, you want to raise rates on billionaires, put a surcharge on them, that is one thing. But when you start talking about taxing unrealized gains, I know they're only talking about it impacting about 700 people right now. But, you know, back in 1894, the income tax was only for people who were making over $4,000 at that time. The idea of going after unrealized gains is a big deal for any American who has spent time saving up and doing the right things by putting money in the stock market and hoping it will grow over many, many years, many decades. That's the way to prosperity for most average Americans, if you can actually do that and save and do the right thing over time. If they're able to tax unrealized gains, say your Tesla shares went up 100% this year. Well, what if next year they go down 80%? How do you get some of that back? It's very complicated, and it's the idea that you are no longer taxing income. You're taxing potential gains that you've never actually gotten a hold of or gotten any income or any result out of it. I get it if they want to put constraints against being able to use your equity to make other loans so that you can actually live off of that. I understand that. But the idea of being taxed on gains that you've never realized is a crazy one.
So what are your thoughts on this tax proposal? It's directed to or targeted to billionaires, but will this trickle down to the everyday person? Originally, they were saying with the IRS tax proposal that it was for, to find out billionaires who weren't paying their taxes, and they wanted to check out bank accounts that had $600, then $10,000. Will this trickle down to the average person? Let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments below. So Pelosi upbeat on Biden deal, but Manchin pans billionaire tax. So that tax plan just mentioned and you just saw, of course, Joe Manchin not on board with that, as well as many other Republicans. So that may be another holdup as well, especially since Democrats just came out with this. And Chuck Schumer said the final holdup was Medicare and prescription drugs, but looks like this billionaire tax plan might be a big holdup as well. So Nancy Pelosi said Wednesday that Democrats are in pretty good shape on President Joe Biden's sweeping domestic plan and a related $1 trillion infrastructure bill. So she said they're saying that she was upbeat in her comments, saying people in the stratosphere, rather than trying to penalize, we ought to be pleased that this country is able to produce the wealth, according to Joe Manchin. And said Joe Manchin prefers a minimum 15% flat patriotic tax to ensure the wealthiest Americans don't skip out on paying any taxes. There's a patriotic duty that you should be paying something to this great country. So we'll see what happens with that. Also, here is another Representative Gottheimer talking about the latest status of it passing. Will it pass? When will it pass? Here's what you'd have to know.
So when? Because let's be honest, Congressman, for the last 2 months, you've been saying, let's vote on the first part and then we'll work on the second. None of that's changed. Tell me what has changed this week. When are you going to vote on hard infrastructure? When are you going to vote on human infrastructure?
Well, you're right, Stephanie, about the frustration of not voting. Common sense would dictate that we would vote on this bipartisan infrastructure bill. We've got elections coming up next week. On October 31st, the trust fund for building roads, bridges, and all our other physical infrastructure literally runs out unless we have this vote or have a separate vote to reauthorize it temporarily. Right. So all of that is a huge pressure point that we should vote on this. And people back home are saying to me, why aren't you just voting on this bill on infrastructure that's sitting in Congress waiting for you? But, somehow, for some reason, it's being held hostage by this other bill. So I'm hoping this week, Stephanie, and the Speaker, we met with her yesterday, and others really want to vote this week. We need to have the President, though, to weigh in and say, we want to vote this week on infrastructure. I feel he's got to say, I feel good enough about where we are in the good faith negotiations on that reconciliation package, on the social infrastructure package. And once he feels good enough, I'm hoping that we can get that momentum and get a vote. But as you said, time's running out here.
With President Biden leaving, I think, tomorrow for his trip to Europe, things need to get done right away, hopefully today. They said October 31st, but it really would need to be done today if President Biden were to sign off on it. But keep you updated on that. Next, let's talk about increase in Social Security. So Congress has a new plan to fix Social Security. How would it change benefits? So there's a lot to this. I'm just going to go over the increase in Social Security, which is what this plan has. So a House Democratic proposal to reform Social Security is being reintroduced into Congress. The new version of the bill, called Social Security 2100, a sacred trust, has changes aimed at drawing support from President Biden and from the Republicans. The reintroduction follows the Social Security Administration's latest estimates that the trust funds that support the program will be depleted in just 13 years. So there's a lot to this, but I'm going to give you one of the biggest takeaways here in terms of increase. So like Biden's plan, the Social Security 2100 Act would set a higher minimum benefit for low-income workers. Benefits would be set at 125% above the poverty line and tied to current wage levels. So a 125% increase, what that means is if the poverty level currently is at $12,880 for individuals, that means an increase, if you were to multiply it by 1.25, 125%, that would make it up to $16,000, which would be about a $4,000 increase, or $3,200 increase more per year in Social Security benefits. So let me know down in the comments below, is that a good increase? What's the likelihood of this passing? We still don't know. A lot of these increase for Social Security benefits bills have been introduced, but haven't really gone anywhere. If they were added to something like the Build Back Better bill, it would probably have a better chance of passing, but as a standalone, we haven't really seen it move forward. But I'll keep you updated on that. Next, let's go over this article right here. President Biden wants stimulus checks to continue into 2022. It's a very tantalizing headline, but what is it talking about? Let me break this down for you. So President Joe Biden and the Democrats in Congress are working on cutting down the price tag of the White House's social spending bill. That means the popular monthly child tax credit will likely take a hit, but won't be going away just yet if President Biden can help it. President Biden wanted to extend that program for another 3 years. However, due to some opposition from his own political party, the White House has agreed to cut it back from 3 years to just 1 more year for now. So it looks like when it comes to the child tax credit, those monthly checks that are $250 to $300 per month, it's going to go on just for 1 more year. So that's what it was referring to there. In terms of a general Ford stimulus check, the Change.org petition, currently at $2,000 per month to every American, is at 2,939,000 signatures so far, and that is also another bill that wasn't a standalone bill, but a lot of people were pushing for. Politicians, not so much anymore. There was a Cash Act, which was last year, but as of now, there is no Ford stimulus check in the Build Back Better bill, and not much talk about it coming up in the future. Next, I'm going to answer the questions you leave for me in the comments. Boss Faye asks, how do you update direct deposit information in the for the child tax credit? So if you go to the IRS website, the Child Tax Credit Portal, you could type in Google IRS Child Tax Credit Portal, and it'll take you right to the portal. Once you put in your information, social, things like that, you could change your bank account information, so direct deposit. Then you could also change your address as well. A few other things you could change. So that's where you do it on the IRS website. No other places. Also, no representatives are going to reach out to you or call you or contact you via social media. Those are scammers. Speaking of scammers, I have a ton of scammers in the comments. I would never ask to contact you on WhatsApp, ask you for your personal information or anything like that, so be aware of that. Next question, Laura Slatsky Red Swan asks, what about SSI, SSDI veterans, older folks, those who choose not to have children or children are grown? We all vote. I agree. So all those categories that you just mentioned, unfortunately, just kind of left behind. They were last in line to get the stimulus checks, not many stimulus proposals for them. So I agree with you. I think there definitely should be more to help them out. Next question comes from Shakira Winstead. Hey, is there a way to comment on any of those rental assistance sites or something so that I can help provide information why people are not getting it? So whenever I tried to get rental assistance, they wanted me to have a qualified job to get it. So say you lose your job, right? Yeah, so in terms of commenting on those sites, not really sure how you could do that. People could barely get any rental assistance. As I mentioned, only 10% of that went out. Of the $46 billion, or actually 25%, but still, there's dozens of billions of dollars that could have helped with rental assistance. So not sure how you could comment and help out with that. Next question, Maria McKenzie, what about Ohio? Haven't heard about any stimulus information in Ohio. And that is all the stimulus news I have for you today. To hopefully brighten your day a bit, here's my daughter Bella's tip of the day.
Oh, hi guys, I didn't see you there. Hi guys, this is Bella today, and I want to tell you something what you should really do. You should always be kind, and if you want to do something very happy, then do it. Like today I'm going to be making popsicle, and I'm going to be doing it with you. So what the first step is, get some milk. You can take cow milk or